infrastructure. I'm joined now by the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. It's Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff from California. And Congressman, let me start with it this way. My staff and I were noting, I mean, is Vladimir Putin basically got a whole bunch of cyber criminals that he has said, we're going to let you do what you want to do. You can make a little bit of money, but make sure your targets are all in the West. Is that what this is? Is that what it's happening right now to the United States?
Yes, I think that's exactly it. There are any number of criminal groups, cyber criminals operating from Russian soil. As long as they don't go after Russian companies, as long as they don't hurt the regime, they can operate with a lot of impunity in terms of any reaction from the Kremlin. But it's more than that, Chuck. It's also that they can be tasked. And this is the same situation in China as well, where other cyber criminals can act with the indulgence of the Chinese government, but also they can be given instructions. We want this data. We want this trade secret. We want you to infiltrate these government agencies and provide us the data. So it's a symbiotic relationship between these governments and these groups, and that ought to give us leverage to go after these, not just the groups, but the countries that are hosting them.
Well, you say it ought to give us leverage. I mean, if I look back at what we've done, right, the hacking situation going back to 2016, the first couple of years, most of the general public, they didn't necessarily feel the day-to-day. The only time a hack got into their way is when their credit card companies told them they had to get a new credit card. Other than that, that was about the only hassle. Now, of course, we're seeing more concerted attacks on stuff that impacts people's day-to-day lives. Is this an intentional Russian government-led attack on the country right now, or is this less that, and it's still more cyber criminals with a general set of instructions?
I think it's more of the latter. There are certainly things I think that Putin has done to test the new administration. That massive troop buildup outside of Ukraine, I think that was designed to both chill what Ukraine might do and improve Russian bargaining position in negotiations with Ukraine, but also to send a message to Biden that this is our sphere of influence. I think this is a bit different. I do think that we have seen an increase in these attacks, but frankly, that increase has been going on for years. I can remember years ago a hospital in my district being the subject of a ransomware attack, and then it was a quaint amount they were seeking to extort. Now those amounts have gone up, and because it's become so lucrative, you have more getting in the business. You have these ransomware groups that are essentially outsourcing their services to others. So it's a real proliferation, and we need both to harden our private defenses in corporate America. We need to harden our government defenses, which are still not good enough. But we also, I think, need to be more on the offense, disrupting, using our cyber capabilities to disrupt and to take away some of the profitability from these groups.
So how does that work? I mean, look, on one hand with Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin's anonymous, but the wallets that, the other part of Bitcoin is, it's part of the blockchain. So everything is identifiable. While you may not, maybe you get the anonymity of who controls the wallet, you can track the wallet and watch people use that money and perhaps hold others criminally account like you would money launderers, could you not?
Well, look, I think that we have historically been reluctant to use our cyber capabilities as more than just a general deterrent. We haven't been that willing to deploy them to disrupt either the cryptocurrency lucre that these ransomware groups can accumulate, or in the case of nation states, the capabilities that they're using to infiltrate and hack our networks. I think that resistance is breaking down, and I think it's going to have to. I think we're going to have to use our technological means, which are the greatest in the world, to disrupt these networks and disrupt these government as well as private hackers.
Sanctions look like they've been a failure. Tell me why they haven't been, because it certainly looks like it has not deterred the behavior of Putin, period. So in that sense, why can you make the case that sanctions have been successful?
Well, it all depends, I guess, on how much weight you're expecting sanctions to carry. I think they are an effective tool. I think they can be overutilized. And of course, we can, have the false expectation that they're going to solve all our problems. They won't. But nonetheless, they do have a very real impact on the Russian economy. They have a real impact on Russian oligarchs. Putin hates them. And so they do have value. And here, I think we need to find a way, frankly, to hold these countries to indemnify the victims, either by providing some form of legal redress or sanctions that are equivalent to the losses that we're sustaining. We're going to need international cooperation to do it. I think one of the things that Russia and China are greatly concerned about is when we partner with our allies around the world and we bring about collective economic action to push back on their activities. But that's what we're going to have to do. It won't be a cure-all. At the end of the day, we just need to harden our defenses. But it does help advance the cause.
So are you suggesting that whether it's JBS or the MTA or the hospital you talked about, file a suit against the Russian government? Sue the Russian government?
The reality is we're not going to be able to bring these criminal hackers before U.S. courts.
Right.
We don't have the jurisdiction to go into St. Petersburg or Moscow or wherever they're operating out of and grab them and pull them into U.S. court. But we can, I think, seek to recoup the money. We can, I think, try to establish international rules of the road and laws that allow for liability in the courts, yes, but also a collective international agreement to sanction, at least force them to suffer the economic losses that they're causing the rest of the world by allowing these ransomware attackers to operate freely.
My friend Tony Kornheiser likes to say there's no problem that can't be solved with money, that there's always a money component, perhaps, sometimes. Final question is this. The White House put out a cyber memo to business executives, essentially saying, hey, you better get your act together, too. I guess, ultimately, who is in charge of protecting us, the government or a private business? I understand I have some expectation, but at the end of the day, what can a business do that's greater than a government in protecting our privacy online or our finances?
No, it's a good question. Look, I think when it comes to critical infrastructure, the government is going to have to do more than admonish corporate America to be responsible, do their job, protect themselves to the best of their ability. I think we're going to have to set and mandate minimum standards for truly critical infrastructure. And I think we're going to have to help industry because you're right, it's a very unequal fight when it's a nation state against a private company. But here, it's often not a nation state acting as the nation state. It's a group of criminal ransomware artists, and their large companies are on a better footing to compete and protect themselves. And when it comes to things that are vital to American life, I think the government is going to have to require those companies to do a lot more than they are. And if they're not going to do it on their own, then we have to insist on it.
Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Democrat from Southern California. Thank you for coming on and sharing your perspective with us, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.